All right, so we're going to start biomes today. If you haven't already done so, on the first slide, you need to have your name, have the academic number, and right here, it should link to mine. And you can see that the link to mine is down here at the bottom, conveniently so. So if you need to highlight, do the shortcut Control K or just click it and then paste that in. So when you click on this, it brings you to my slideshow. Next slide. These are the main words that we're going to be going over. We're not going to do like we've done before, where we go and kind of give a very quick definition of each of them. Just because of how Biomes works, we're going to be doing it a little bit different. But this is the main vocab, and I may add to this as we go on. We're going to be going from today, when we look at this other slide, this biome slideshow, it's going to be right here. Here's a biome slideshow. So that's the link that you can use. And so right now, as we're going through this PowerPoint, you can be on this slideshow, on slide number 1. We talk about what is a biome. And then in a little bit, if you have the Venn diagram, you can go and delete that. We're going to be using this slide. So this should be your slide number 4. And if it's not, just make it so. All right. So again, you should be starting on this slide right here. So let's go into it. All right, here's 4 pictures. Take a second to look at it, note some differences, note some similarities. There's different plants, there's different animals. You can kind of imagine what it would feel like to be here, what it would feel like to be here in the top right. The main difference, I would argue that the main difference between these two is temperature. Just looking at the two, there's a huge difference in temperature. This looks like this is very cold, there's snow. And this looks like it would be very, very hot. It could be cold, but I'm guessing this is very, very hot. And the difference between the top right and the bottom right, I would argue the temperature is not the main difference. It's the amount of moisture that's different. And so we've talked about abiotic factors in the past. Abiotic factors that determine these 4 pictures, these 4 ecosystems, they determine what plants and animals and bacteria and fungi, they determine what living things can live there. And so you don't see a bunch of trees here. You don't see hardly any plants here. I don't see any plants. These little spots may be plants. You see a wide variety of different levels of plants here. And you see, a couple plants in the background, trees, some grass, and that. So abiotic factors do determine and do help influence what can live in an area. All right, and look here. Look at the differences between these. These are not the same exact place, but you can kind of get the feel that it wouldn't be crazy to go on a hike and see all 4 of these, but you wouldn't see all 4 of these probably in the same hike. So you could like different parts of the year, you could visit the area and go on the same hike and see this, and a different time of year see this, a different time of year see this, a different time of year see this. But it would be different times of years, and we're familiar with this, especially if you've ever gone to North Georgia or the Carolinas. You see this. This is a pretty common occurrence for our area. Not necessarily the snow, but the different seasons. You can see that. And so both of these slides, we're going to be kind of looking at different biomes, and it's going to involve differences like temperature, the amount of moisture, and then you get even into seasons and stuff like that. So what is a biome? This is not the end-all, be-all biome definition. This is a definition to help you understand a little bit. If you want to go ahead and type this out, you can. It says, a biome is a group of ecosystems that have similar climates, vegetation, and animals. Now, you could add on to this bacteria and fungi and protists. You could add on to this you could add on to this more stuff for the definition, but this is generally what the definition is. One thing that you can kind of think through. So imagine you see this. This could be a place in Europe. This could be a place maybe in Asia somewhere. This could be a place in North America. And I think you would expect to see not the same. You would not expect to see the exact same animals if you were on any one of those places. So North America, you would probably see some different animals that you would not see in Europe or that you would not see in Asia, even though it may look the same as far as or feel the same as far as abiotic factors and some of the trees and grass like that. And the reason that you would, for example, if you were to, let's go back a slide or 2, this area right here. So if I were to take out this elephant this, what you see could, I think you could maybe get confused and think this was in North America if you didn't have the elephant. You would think this could be in North America, like out west in the plains, because there's a bunch of grass, there's very few trees, and you can see a good distance away. The reason that you know that this is not in North America is because of this elephant. But you do have there used to be at least, there used to be large animals that were in North America because this is a very similar biome. So the biomes of North America, like the grasslands of North America and the grasslands of Africa, which we call them savannas, they're very, very similar in a lot of ways. And you see similar types of animals. So it's not the same animal. You would not see a lion in North America, hopefully under normal circumstances. But you would see a wolf, and they kind of fill a very similar niche. If you remember the word niche, they fill a very similar niche. And this could be in South America or Africa or some part in Asia. And you would see different organisms, different animals. You would expect to see different animals or organisms depending on what place you're at. But it's going to be a similar animal as all the other biomes. So let's say there was 2 different types of monkeys. You might see one kind of monkey, maybe, and I don't, this is out of my wheelhouse, so this may be geographically wrong, but maybe you see a capuchin monkey in one place and a chimpanzee in another place. They may be filling very similar roles, but they're not the same species. And so that's what a biome is. A biome is a very similar group of ecosystems. They have similar climates, they have similar vegetation, they have similar animals, but it doesn't mean they're the exact same. All right. Question on this slide says, what determines what can grow and live in a biome? What determines what that biome can sustain as far as plants, as far as animals, all the other living things? And these 4 things. So take a look at this, take a second and see if you can figure out what each of these represent. All right, so what determines what can live in an area? So right here, this is probably the easiest one. This is temperature. It's also an easy one. This is precipitation. It just so happens these are the 2 most important. Temperature and precipitation determine what can live in an area more than any other thing. Because if it's freezing, some plants can't grow. If it freezes temporarily, that actually encourages some plants to grow in certain ways, or seeds to be able to ripen, or the amount of rainfall or the type of rainfall allows. Temperature and precipitation can affect how those 2 things, how the different biomes, what they can support. The other 2, these 2 are important, but they're not nearly as important as these 2. These 2, temperature and precipitation, are what we normally talk about when we're talking about the weather. And if you take the weather and you spread it out to what happens in an area over, let's say, 10 years, 20 years, 100 years, that's the climate for that area. So the climate for South Georgia is not going to be snow. You're not going to anticipate snow in our climate. However, it can snow here, like in January of last year, 2018, it did snow here, but that's not a normal occurrence because that's not our climate. Bottom right, down here we have latitude. We'll talk about that, specifically Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn. This area is known for having certain types of abiotic factors, and extreme north and extreme south are known for having certain abiotic factors. And then this right here is the height above sea level, topography. It's the altitude or the elevation. So these are the 4 main things that determine what can live in a biome, what can grow in a biome. If you took an orange tree and you planted it in Canada in the summer, it will live. If you let it go through the winter, that orange tree is going to die very soon, very early, because the abiotic factors in Canada are not the same for where the orange tree is from. So these are 4 very important abiotic factors.